Hello everyone, in this video I want to do 6 reasons why Ubuntu does better than Windows is not true, refuted. So the first reason is OS and software updates. It's saying that Ubuntu has better OS updates than Windows, which isn't true because Windows updates actually do things where Ubuntu updates don't really do anything. Case in point, Ubuntu a few years ago added Ubuntu Cloud, gave you free 2 gigabytes of cloud storage. They put in all the textbooks. You read the Ubuntu textbook. There it is about Ubuntu Cloud. Guess what? 2 years ago, they shut down Ubuntu Cloud, and all the update went to nothing. Where Microsoft OneDrive is lame and steady. So let's go ahead and take a look at some more here. So, software updates. Every time you update your software, you have a chance of screwing something up and having it not work. An example is I used to have Pinnacle Studio. This was about 8 years ago, and I upgraded. I'm getting old. I upgraded from Pinnacle Studio 7 to Pinnacle Studio 11, and when I upgraded to Pinnacle Studio 11, it upgraded all my Pinnacle Studio files to Pinnacle Studio 11, so they could not be used on Pinnacle Studio 7 anymore. So a software update is almost never a good thing unless you actually go and read and find there's a reason you want it to have. So have software automatically updated on your system besides system security updates for your OS, which you only want to do with Windows because Windows tests them properly. You don't want software updates unless they are manual. Computer security. The only reason Linux is more secure than Windows is because no one ever uses Linux to have viruses. Now you might say, well, the fundamental designs of Linux are better, but that doesn't negate where the viruses come from, and the viruses come from is users not knowing how the system works and user error. So all the viruses are made for Windows because that's what everyone uses. If the viruses are made for if everyone used Linux, viruses are maybe for Linux. Android, why is there Android viruses? Because people actually use Android. Now you might say, well, iOS has no viruses. Well, iOS is still locked down. You can't do anything. In my opinion, iOS itself is a virus because I had an iPod Touch 4th generation. Again, I'm getting old. This must have been 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was 7 years ago now. And don't even make me say that. My iPod Touch 4th generation, I let it sit for 3 years, and I pulled it up. This was 4 years ago, and none of my applications would open because it had deauthorized my account. And when I tried to sign in, of course, my Apple sign-in password didn't work. Where Android, you'll just automatically use your applications because they don't have all those checks. So iOS, in my opinion, is a virus. So computer security. The only reason Linux has better computer security is because well, the reason is because people actually use Windows and people don't use Linux. Next thing, desktop customization. Okay, kind of meaningless. You want your device to be as standardized as possible, especially when you at the OS layer. When you get to the application layer, that's when you want to start customizing. But your OS should just basically manage your network, your I/O, your disk I/O, and your CPU, and your CPU is basically the logic. So basically, it just needs to do those 3 things and do them seamlessly without you ever having to think about it. So customizing your desktop to make it non-standard is kind of annoying. And what I mean by that is if you're doing colors, like if you're changing a color from red to blue, that's kind of meaningless. Now, if you have a dark theme, that actually is something useful because it saves your monitor and it saves your eyes. But as you can see here, he's saying that in 5 minutes you changed it from the standard Ubuntu desktop. But I really don't see anything because here you have the Nautilus File Explorer, and the sidebar is still on the left, and the top part is still on the top. You know, your task or whatever your I'm not sure what it's called on Ubuntu, but we'll just call it on Android your status bar. And then over here you have your dock or your or your your dock. It's still on the left side. So if you change icon colors, that's kind of meaningless. System resources. Now the thing here is about system resources saying Ubuntu takes less resources. Well, the thing is, if you're going to use a computer, you really want to maximize your efficiency. So the computer is 2 things. It's your computer and then the input you put into it. So here you can see I have 700 touches for today, and it's about 1 a.m. So if my computer is junky and it takes more input to do what I want to do, then that ends up costing more than having a junky computer. So it's kind of a dumb idea to use Linux just because you have a junky computer and then try to say it's better. That's only if you have like a junky computer and you need something to just run so you can watch a YouTube video. But if you're going to actually be using this computer, it actually saves you in what things of value, because Linux is only free if your time has no value. If your time is even somewhat valuable, you will want a computer that can actually do what you want it to do. Thus, you will want to use Windows. Because, and you can notice this here, if you look at the difference between these two resource monitors, it's kind of obvious. You can see Windows is really clean and tells you exactly what's going on, and it has all the graphs, where the Ubuntu one just isn't as nice. It really isn't. So let's go ahead and take, I don't know why I need to emphasize that, but it just doesn't. Live environment. Windows actually does have a live environment. It's called Windows PE, and you can run Windows software live on a live CD or live DVD, or even live USB drive. Also, Windows has the ability to run your computer off a flash drive. Now you might be saying, well, Freddy, you can't do that because that takes the Windows Ultimate Edition. Well, and Ubuntu is free. Well, that's the thing with Windows is people say, oh, Windows has no software repository, but Linux does. The thing is, but the truth of that statement is Linux has a software repository of a bunch of software that never works, that no one ever uses, but Windows has a software repository that is not written in news articles, but that everyone uses, and that software repository is the Pirate Bay. And the Pirate Bay is the Windows software repository. And that also answers this question, it's free. Well, with the Pirate Bay, the Windows software repository is free too. Now, that doesn't mean you go to the Pirate Bay for all your software, you still support developers, but saying that it's free and Windows is not free, or Windows is not possible to free, well, the reality of what actually goes on is people use the Pirate Bay and people do not use the Linux software repositories. And you can also get Windows 10 for free by the same method, by downloading an activator. So, this is why Windows is better than Linux and Ubuntu.